It's a little windy out here, so if I need to re-record indoors, then I will, but it's so nice out. This is probably the nicest it's been in a while, considering how hot it's been. So I wanted to record outside while I could, while it wasn't too hot. If you're new here, my name is Dana, and I publish unapologetically honest stories with real characters under the name D.L. Pitchford. And I just finished the third draft of what is the fourth and final book in my debut series. And I want to talk about it. I want to go over my general thoughts on the draft itself and what I'm doing now, what my next steps are. So, general thoughts. This is my third complete draft. This is not the actual third draft because I do a discovery draft at the beginning that I don't really count. And then I made it 60% of the way through my initial first draft back in 2019 and never finished it. That got abandoned. So when I came back to work on it again, I didn't scrap that, but I had to completely reorganize everything. I changed the order of what things happened in. So technically this is the fifth draft, but it is the third draft as far as completion. And I don't count the discovery draft. If I'm numbering them, that's draft 0. So third draft, but this book has been a long time coming and has had so many years of work put into it, and we're working on it. I have not read the draft since I finished it. I have not looked at it really at all since I sent it off to my critique partner, and I'm not planning to look at it until probably midway through September. I want to give it at least 6 weeks before I read it, and you want to come to it with fresh eyes. You don't want to see things that aren't actually there, things that you intended to put into the draft but didn't actually make it in. And I know there are a lot of those. There are so many things that were supposed to be in this draft and either didn't make it, or they just, the way in which they were done is not compelling, it's not throughout. So there's a lot of work that still needs to go into this, for sure. I am very aware of that. Total word count for the draft, 132,195. It's about 35,000 words longer than any version of the previous books in the series. This is the final book in the series, so that's not all that weird. And because of the nature of how I write, how I draft things, it will get longer still before it gets shorter. Because there are definitely moments that still need fleshed out, descriptions still need fleshed out. Not that I do a whole bunch of descriptions, but I know there are moments where it's no, this needs to be explained more, this needs to be described more. And I'm still lacking some of that. I do also know there is one moment that I want to change where it happens in the book. And that's probably the main thing, or one of the main things that I want to talk to my critique partner about. There's still a lot of little tweaks that I want to make to this, and that one big change probably won't have a lot of changes throughout the book, even though it is moving something at least halfway earlier in the book. That won't change the bulk of the scenes. It will only have an effect on a few scenes on a large scale and other scenes on a small scale. So I don't think that will really be as big of a deal as it sounds, but that is something that I know I want to change. So Obviously, this is the most solid version of the book that exists, that has ever existed. That is the nature of drafts, generally speaking. I mean, sometimes you will start a new draft and have to scrap it and go back to old stuff, but usually that's only like parts of it, not the whole thing. So yes, it's the most solid version, but there's still so much work that this needs. There's so much time I still need to put into this. And I know that I cannot understand the full breadth of that until I read it again, until I do that cooling period and go back and read it. I do know that at this point, probably the weakest part of the book is the section right after the midpoint, because I know that's the section that requires the most work to get it where I need it to be. It's something where I need to have it feel like time is going both fast and slow, because a lot of time passes there, and it needs to feel like time is dragging. Like Billy is kind of dissociating in that part of the story, which is why so much time passes. And I do think of, because this is the most obvious thing, and the way it was done is memorable, but in New Moon, after Edward leaves, there's just like chapters that are just the time, like the month, January, February, whatever, I don't remember. It's been probably since high school since I actually read that book. But the way that was done was so memorable and got the point across. My problem is I can't do something like that, because this is something that I need to... There are important moments that happen throughout that time period. So we are like between scenes or between chapters, it's like, okay, we're skipping a couple weeks here, we're skipping some more time there. And I need it to feel like we're not. It can't feel like we're just jumping around. But it needs to feel slow. So we'll see how I manage that. That's going to be a tough one. Those are my general thoughts on the draft, and the next step, aside from obviously we're having a cooling period now, I'm not touching it until at least mid-September. This draft took exactly 2 months to do. I started June 1st and ended July 31st. So I have all of August and at least half of September, where I want to do at least 6 weeks of not touching it, not looking at it. I haven't printed it off yet, which I feel like I usually do earlier, but I don't know. It's been a while since I've been this far in a book, so yeah, right now it is with my critique partner. I'm not looking at it. She has to reread the previous books before she can get to it, so I'm not sure when exactly she will do that. But when we're both done reading, we will get together and talk about everything. We're going to talk about, what works and what doesn't work, where the characters feel solid, where they feel out of character. We're going to talk about what aspects need improved or where things need brought to the forefront. I know there are quite a bit of those things where it's like, I need to emphasize this in scenes where it's not applicable, so that it's there the whole time. Plus, there are also aspects, like I mentioned, the one scene that I want to move, the event I want to move earlier in the story, but I'm not sure how to fix yet. So there are a few smaller things of that nature where I know this is something that needs fixed, but I don't necessarily know how I want to go about that. And so after she reads it, we'll talk about all of that stuff. We'll get together in person and talk about this for hours, probably. That's generally what's happened in the past. And then we'll probably continue chatting in like messages and talking about stuff there. I do want to say things we will not be talking about. We're not going to be talking about line level changes. This has not gone through any sort of line editing. It's not ready for that sort of assessment aside from a general overview. And we're not going to be talking about like the quality of the prose or any sort of copy edits, proofreading type of stuff. If something stands out and she marks it in the document, then obviously that's okay, but in our discussions, that's not where the focus will be. And so after I've kind of mulled over our conversations and read through it probably again, then I'm going to make a list of all the things that I need to change, especially, there will probably be two lists. One that is like the big major changes that need to be addressed first, and then there will be a smaller list of like going through chapter by chapter. I might also do a reverse outline here if the changes are more extensive, or maybe just in the sections where it's more extensive. I'm not sure. I might also do a timeline of the first half of the book, or the first 3/4 of the book actually, because I did put together a timeline of the final chapters when I was working on the climax, because I needed to get that stuff in order. So having an actual timeline of when events happen throughout would probably be helpful. So that's all the stuff that I will do before actually going into revisions again. And I will also note that at this point, I don't know what I will be calling the drafts of this book, because after here, it kind of goes through so many iterations. There are so many changes, and I go through it again and again and again. But the changes are small enough that calling it separate drafts feels weird. So, like, this will technically be the 4th draft, but I don't know how different the 4th draft will be from the final draft. So all of those drafts will probably kind of get merged into one, and just by the end of it be called the final draft. So what am I working on in the meantime? Well, I've been relaxing and taking a break for the most part. I am working on a short vlog of just time in between drafts, purposefully trying to relax and refill my creative well. It has been a lot of thrifting and baking, puzzling, watching movies, spending time with my family, cleaning. We're going on a few short trips and doing stuff like that. It is truly a relaxing time. Aside from it's so hot, so I've barely done any gardening or anything outside. Aside from that, I am participating in Tanya and Cynthia's challenge on the Storyteller Society Discord. It's basically just under the premise of we are encouraging each other throughout the months of August and September, and just sort of supporting each other, lifting each other up. It's all like airplane themed, so we're going on a trip, and it's adorable. All of the graphics that they've done are so cute, and I haven't done much work yet. I haven't been working on anything since this started, but it has been such a fun time, and I do have things that I want to be working on. Basically, before I dive into the next draft, before I work on revisions, I have 2 things I really want to be working on. First is a short story that is one of several short stories that I have from Xander's point of view. I have one that has been published on my website for free, totally accessible for anybody. But I also have several that are in like rough draft stages. So there are probably 3 that are in a rough draft stage, like the rough draft is completed, and are ready for the next step, going through and revising stuff, which in a short story, unless it's really rough, there's not a whole lot of that. And then I have one that I am halfway through the rough draft, and that is the one that I would like to be working on. That's the one that I would like to finish the rough draft of. This is set during their freshman year, about a third of the way through book 1, and it is Xander going home with Jimmy, who is Billy and Xander's mutual best friend, going home with him for their very first winter break, and meeting Jimmy's parents and kind of getting pseudo-adopted by them. And it was just something that I was thinking about a lot as I was writing book 4, because book 4 is, you're finally getting a look at Xander's childhood and Xander's parents, and it really got me to thinking about what it was like for him to actually encounter these other parents, these other parental figures who are very different from his. And so I really want to finish that. It's about halfway done. And then there's another short story that I am probably about halfway through. This is one that is, it's an idea I've had since probably 2021, 2022, somewhere around there. And it's kind of your, like, shonen anime heroes, like, you know, they're usually this group of kids who are fighting this crazy monster or whatever, and everything ends fine, and then there's like some big epilogue of how everything is so nice in the future and we're all fine, and it's like, no, you guys got traumatized by this horrible experience of virtually being child soldiers, but in a mythical, fantastical setting, and it's a show for kids, or at least, you know, teens. So we pretend that it's fine when it's definitely not fine. So this is a story idea I've had for a while, and it's basically child soldiers, like child superheroes sort of thing, who are dealing with their PTSD and their trauma as adults. Now that they defeated the bad guy, everything is over, and they just have to go about their normal lives and pretend that everything is fine when they're not fine. This is something that I've been developing via Drabble Club. I have written a few different Drabbles that are set in this world with different characters, and I really want to finish this short story. I want to finish the different sections for the different characters in the group, and I don't want to say high concept because that sounds smug, but it's just, this is something I really need to write. It's something that I feel it in my bones. I don't know how else to describe that. So, like the first short story, this one is also, like, probably close to halfway done. It's a little less than halfway done, and I need to focus on those. I have not yet. I haven't really focused on any writing at all. I haven't been doing any writing, which is fine, because I've been taking a break. And yes, I can work on other things, but it's also good to just take an actual break, a full break from work, because that's what this is. Even if it's fun work, even if I love it and can't imagine my life without writing. Even when I was in burnout, I was still writing, just not my own stuff, just not something for publication. It was very personal. But the other main thing I want to be focusing on during this cooling period is I want to hone in on my content plan for the next few months. I want to figure out how I want to approach things. I have primarily been doing vlogs. That has been my main staple of my channel, and I really enjoy doing vlogs. I do. But people don't really watch a lot of vlogs if they don't know you. So if I am wanting more viewers, if I am wanting to reach more people, let's say it like that, because that is more in line with how I like to think about it. If I want to reach more people, then I need to have more things that those people would be interested in. I guess that is to say, if you have any video suggestions, I would happily take them. But yeah, I'm thinking about how I want to change the way I approach this, what sort of videos I want to be doing in the future. And I have a couple ideas, but they're very loose, and I need to expand on them. I need to add more. I need to figure out more. So that's how things are going now that I have finished this draft. We are taking a break, working on other things, and waiting for my critique partner. I will have another vlog for you next of the chilling, relaxing, refilling my creative well variety, and I'll see you next time.